I'm Julie Pace from the Associated Press at the White House. I'm joined by Christina Romer, Chief of the Council on Economic Relations here at the White House, and we have some good news to talk about today. The jobless rate is out, and we've actually seen that number go down from 10.2 to 10%. How are you reading that number? How is the administration reading that number today?
I think it is unquestionably good news. It was better than expected on both the unemployment rate coming down, the 0.2 of the percentage point that you mentioned, and we saw that job loss was much smaller than anyone had been anticipating, about as close to zero as you can get. I think the important thing that we're realizing, or that we want to emphasize, is that we know there'll be bumps in the road, and I've been out here many a month with a worse than expected number, saying don't read too much into one number, and I think we want to say don't read too much into one better than expected number.
Everyone seems to be, though, looking for a sign that we know that the official recession may be over, but a sign that for people out in the community that jobs are coming back. Is this that sign for them, or, as you said, could this number go back up and come back down over the next couple months?
Well, first, absolutely things could go up, go down. These series are volatile. We saw today how big data revisions can be. We learned that in September and October, the job loss was about 80,000 less in each of those months than we had thought. But I do think it is a hopeful sign. We have seen the economic recovery in the sense of GDP growing again. We've seen a lot of stabilization in our financial markets. I think this could be a sign that that's finally getting to the labor market.
Did we see any signs in these numbers about specific industries or specific areas of job growth that you think are particularly notable?
Well, we certainly saw that temporary service employment went up, and that's often a very early indicator. When you're a firm first starting to get back to hiring, you often hire a temp. And so what we'll be looking is, do those turn into permanent jobs? I did also see a lot of state and local education hiring. I think some 21,000 jobs. I think that, if you think about what we did in the Recovery Act and the state fiscal relief, is a big tribute to the importance of that action.
Now, obviously, yesterday here we had this big job summit. You were there. Tell me some of the things you were hearing from people, especially people who maybe own a small business.
No, well, I was in a session where we were talking about incentives for investment and hiring, and we heard a lot from small and big businesses. I think one thing we heard very much is how important small business credit is, and that's something the president's been focusing on and something that we're certainly working on a lot. I heard things about tax incentives for hiring. That's something that a number of the businesses said might make a real difference to them. I know in some of the other sessions there was a lot of interest in sort of green jobs initiatives, things like sort of a cash for clunkers program for energy retrofit projects for homeowners. That was something that certainly a lot of the businesses thought could be helpful.
Were there ideas that you heard that some of the other economic advisors heard that you actually think you might be able to implement down the line?
I think what the president said yesterday is he's looking for every responsible action that we could take to put people back to work. He's certainly very concerned that we do it in a fiscally responsible way, but absolutely, I think there are concrete things that people were suggesting that we'd thought about that absolutely, I think, can and should be turned into policy.
Finally, today the president heads to Allentown. This is going to be the start of a series of events that he'll be having around the country. What's the message that he's going to be sending to the American people?
Well, I think one message is just how concerned he is about jobs and how that is and has been his focus from the day that he took office. I think it is also getting into the whole theme of yesterday's jobs forum, which is we need to bring the private sector back. This is not something the government can't create all the jobs. What we're looking for are ways to help the private sector do what they do best, which is put people to work and produce things.
Thanks. Christina Romer, White House economist. I'm Julie Pace for the Associated Press.